Konnichiwa. Today we're going to talk about bakari, which is one of those Japanese expressions that the textbooks can be very confusing about. They will tell you that it has a number of different, seemingly random meanings, which are attached with different grammar structures that you have to memorize. It's another of these laundry lists that the textbooks love to give you. Fortunately, as is often the case, we can cut through all this simply by looking at what the word really means and how it logically works in different situations. This will give us a key both to the meanings and to the structure in its different uses. Bakari is essentially a noun. You won't hear it described as other things, but in practice it works as a noun. We use da after it, which you can only do with a noun, although sometimes we will find the da or des left off in casual speech, just as with mitai, which we discussed last week. I noticed that a lot of the times when a da or des is left off, the word does end in I, so I think that might be a slight influence from adjectives, although it's not an adjective, it is a noun. So what does it mean? Its meaning is very simple. It means just or nothing but. And one of the commonest uses is simply to place it after a past tense statement, to say that has just taken place. It works exactly the same as in English. If we say, Kita bakari, I just came, that's exactly what we also say in English. I just came, or even I only just came. It means that something has happened a very short time ago. Why do we use, both in English and Japanese, a word meaning nothing but in this case? Well, like many words, it is a hyperbole. We discussed hyperboles in the case of matter day in the last lesson, didn't we? When we say, I just came, kita bakari, we are saying that nothing has happened except that I came. I came such a short time ago that there haven't been time for anything else. I just came, I only just came, kita bakari. Now, this is very often very much a hyperbole. Suppose, for example, that we meet a friend in the street and the friend says, let's go for coffee and cakes. And we say, tabeja bakari, I just ate. Now what we're literally saying here is that I ate such a short time ago, many seconds ago, that nothing else has happened in between eating and now. Now obviously that's not literally true. One must have left the place where one did the eating and walked down the street at least. But hyperbolically, we are saying that we ate and nothing else happened between then and now. The textbooks will tell you that this use of bakari is attached to the plain past of a verb. Now, that's true, but it's also confusing for two reasons. First of all, saying plain past implies this whole world where we are taught that the real forms of verbs are the massive forms, so we have to deconstruct them every time we do anything with them. We don't need to say plain past, because everything we do with a verb inside of a sentence we are doing to the plain form of the verb, even if we're using formal Japanese by putting desu and masu on the end. Desu and masu are nothing more than decorative appendages that we put at the very end of a sentence. The other thing that makes this explanation confusing is that while it's true that we do put it after the past form of a verb, we are not really attaching it to the past form of the verb. This is not logically what's happening, and it's one of those things that makes it sound like a random rule when it isn't. What we are attaching bakari to is a completed action. And what we are saying is how long ago it happened. We're saying it happened a very, very short time ago. So, we have to have a completed action, and of course it has to be in the past, because That's what we're saying about it. If it were in the non-past, it wouldn't make any sense, would it? So, we can say it attaches to the plain past of a verb, or we could say it attaches exactly where it logically has to attach and where it would make no sense if it didn't. Now the next use of bakari is one that people sometimes find confusing because it expresses that there is a great deal of something. Now, bakari obviously is a limiting word, so why is it used to express that there is a great deal of something? Now, once again, this is perfectly logical and natural, and we use it in English as well. If we say, there are nothing but cakes in that shop, now we may mean it literally, but very often we mean there are other things, but there are an awful lot of cakes. When I was staying in the countryside in Japan, and I was moving to Tokyo for a while, somebody I knew there thought it was a bad idea for me to move to Tokyo, and said, Tokyo wa gaijin bakari da. In Tokyo, there's nothing but foreigners. Now, of course, this person did not mean that there was nothing but foreigners in Tokyo. She meant that there are a lot of foreigners in Tokyo. And she knows that I didn't want to be associating with foreigners who are going to start talking English at me. It's all right, I avoided that. So this is just a very obvious, natural use of bakari. Now, we can extend this further by saying that someone is doing something a lot or is doing it continuously. Again, the textbooks give you these two meanings and make it sound a little complicated, but there's nothing complicated about it. It's very easy to understand from context. The way we do it is that we put bakari after the te form of the verb. So, if you've ever heard Inu no Omawari-san, which is a charming children's song about a lost kitten, Maiko no koneko-chan, I'll put a link below so you can listen to it if you would like to. Now, when the dog policeman, Inu no Omawari-san, asks the kitten what her name is and where she lives, the song says, the knife de bakari iru koneko-chan. Now, knife de bakari means doing nothing but crying. That's what it literally means. And in this case, it means it quite literally. She did nothing but cry. She went on crying, and she didn't answer, she didn't say what her name was, or where's the head. And that's where we get the idea of continuing to do something. You don't stop doing it, you don't do anything else, you go on doing it. Shite bakari. It can also be used figuratively. You can say that someone does nothing but play golf. Now, in this case, it's a hyperbole, isn't it? Nobody does nothing but play golf. Everybody sometimes eats, sometimes sleeps, and occasionally plays Captain Toad, because everybody plays Captain Toad sometimes. So, we have a hyperbole. We're not saying that someone continues doing something and doesn't do anything else. We're saying that they do it an awful lot. It's a simple enough hyperbole and exactly the same hyperbole that we would have in English. She does nothing but play Nintendo. Now, bakari can also be used to make two conjunctions. Conjunctions, as we know, are things that connect together two complete logical clauses in a compound sentence. So, we can say, Udetta bakari ka odatta. She didn't just sing, she also danced. Now, the only thing we really have to understand here is the use of ka. Ka, as we know, is the question marker, and as we discussed last week, it can turn a statement into a hypothesis, a question, or discussion. But it can also do another thing, and that is it can, especially in colloquial usage, throw things into the negative. And we have the same in English, don't we? When we ask a question, in order to show a negative, we can say, do you think I'm going to do that? Meaning, I'm not going to do that. And it's the same with ka. In Japanese, in some cases, we put ka after something to say that it isn't the case. So if we say bakari, we're saying only that is the case. And if we say bakari ka, we're saying not only that is the case. The other common conjunction we make with bakari is bakari ni. ni can sometimes be added to something in order to make a conjunction. You've seen this with no ni. And I made a video about this a while ago, which you may want to watch. Bakari ni is an explanatory conjunction, where so that something happened and then we're putting a because on the end of it and saying because something else happened. The most usual explanatory conjunctions are kara or node. But bakari ni has a special implication. It's not just saying that something happened because of something, it's saying that it happened just because of something. Again, we can liken bakari to English just. Mimi ga oki bakari ni dare mo hasonde kurenai. Just because my ears are big, no one will play with me. The textbooks will perhaps caution you here that bakari ni doesn't necessarily mean this conjunction, and that's true. But understanding it from context is simple, because we all know that a conjunction can only sit at the end of a complete logical clause that's followed by another logical clause. If bakari ni is not on the end of a logical clause, then it's not the conjunction. And if it's in the middle of a sentence, which it normally will be, it must make sense to put a comma after it, because all conjunctions must logically be able to take a comma. That's all. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments below and I will answer as usual. I'd like to thank my Gold Kokeshi patrons who make these videos possible, and all my patrons and supporters on Patreon and everywhere. And I'd like to thank you for attending this lesson. これからもよろしくお願いします。Class dismissed.